One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.
All right, welcome to yet another episode of One Guy's Seen It, the only podcast where one guy has seen the movie, the other guy has not seen the movie, and the first guy is going to try to convince the second guy to see the movie, and if he succeeds, they'll take a break, watch the movie, come back, nerd out about the movie, and decide how many beers you need to enjoy the movie, all while getting progressively more inebriated themselves, because that is what they choose to do with their sentience. But without any further ado, or rigmarole, or hoopla, or ballyhoo, let's get into it. Sumner, give me the skinny.
I'm just thinking about AI and death and cultural genocide right now.
Yeah, now that's a fucking skinny.
Yeah, that was...
my friend, that is a skinny.
I was building it up for like 15 episodes. Trying to think of the perfect one.
Yeah, for all of our listeners out there, we've been talking all morning about whether or not we should pay one of these AI voice acting services to replace us here on the podcast.
Yeah, we just sit back and rake in the money. the pennies. What
was that site we were just on? It was called Replica, and there was a guy named Vinny with a New York accent.
yeah.
I think he'd be good to replace you.
Just every background character of The Sopranos. Hey, over there, they got the submarine sandwiches.
Submarine sandwiches. God, so good. Well,
Yeah.
Here we are on
yet
another week on Earth, the spinning around the sun, and yet another movie that you have seen that I have not seen.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to see something, man. What do you got for me today?
Well, I was sad when you we were talking yesterday, and you told me that you had never seen The Big Lebowski, and then you watched it without me, so we couldn't do it on the podcast.
I did.
So I was very upset with you for a moment, but I've recovered, and I was gonna throw another Coen Brothers movie at you because you mentioned it.
Ooh, very excited, very happy times. Yes,
Because you were saying how much you like the dialogue in The Big Lebowski and just their style. I think you were talking about yesterday.
yes. I mean, every Coen Brothers movie that I've seen, I've absolutely fallen in love with, and I know I'm in the majority, but it's hard. How can you not?
join the club. You're on the dark side
Yeah,
now.
join the fucking club, right?
Yeah, they have got some great ones out there, and like early on in their career, they had Raising Arizona, which is like one of their dark horse movies. That's not what I'm doing today, because I'm pretty sure you've seen that one at some point.
I have, love it.
Yeah, so I don't know if I don't think I gave too much away. So I'll try and see if you can get. I don't think you'll be able to, but we'll see if this is burrowed in your brain somewhere. You still there?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So this came out in 1990. So this is right after Raising Arizona. This is the next movie they wanted to do. It's starring Gabriel Byrne, Albert Finney, and John Turturro, who was Jesus in The Big Lebowski, the pederast.
Ah, fuck. I feel like I know what this is, but I don't know what this is.
Okay, so the plot from IMDb is Tom Reagan is an advisor to a Prohibition-era crime boss, tries to keep the peace between warring mobs, but gets caught in divided loyalties. This is the plot synopsis.
Ooh, this sounds right up my ass.
When you mentioned The Big Lebowski, I'm like, oh, that would be this one that I'm picking would be a good one.
Yeah, I got nothing. Okay, hit me with a name.
It's called Miller's Crossing, and but one of their early.
Never heard it. Somehow, never heard of it.
Yeah, it's kind of obscure in their filmography. Well, I say obscure, but it was like one of their early like movies that like showed them like as like they arrived as directors in that moment, and then they did Barton Fink the next year, which interestingly they wrote this movie that would end up winning the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which is like the big prestigious filmmaker.
Yes, we discussed it. The fancy happy prize.
Yeah. So they won that the next year with this movie Barton Fink, which they wrote in the middle of making Miller's Crossing when they got writer's block.
Wow.
Yeah, they were stuck on just right in the middle, and they didn't know what to do, so they wrote Barton Fink, which is about a writer in early Hollywood struggling with writer's block, which is also another really good movie.
Man, that's fucking crazy. You gotta love that story. How could you not love that story?
Yeah, and they're just, they're the best. This is one of my personal favorite movies of theirs. I've become more of a fan of it over time, but I'd watch it when I was a kid, and I was like, there was so much going on at once, I almost didn't know. But now I've seen it a bunch, and it's just, there's so many great lines of dialogue and so many Coen brothers, just essential Coen brothers scenes in it. It's just, it's awesome. I love it.
Fuck yeah. Well, before we hop in, is there any trivia or anything that you can... Well, wait. We got to back up.
Oh.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking another Sapporo. I'm going to change it next week because I've drinking Sapporo like 4 weeks in a row.
You're going to turn into a Sapporo. Hey, there's nothing wrong with Sapporo, though. That's a great beer.
It's a quality beer. It's a quality beer.
But if it makes you feel any better, I'm drinking Miller High Life, the champagne of beers.
We're basically drinking the same thing, I feel like.
Basically drinking the same thing, yeah.
It's
funny too. It's crazy how like a taste or a smell can take you back to more than anything else. So when Kaylee and I have been together for 7 years now, or it'll be 7 years in January, and
congratulations.
Oh God, don't remind me.
I've been there.
The first time that we ever hung out at her apartment in San Marcos, I think I picked up a 12-pack of Miller High Life. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was really just because I was so broke, and it was the cheapest beer at the gas station next to her apartment. But then it kind of turned into this tradition that, like, we literally, the first, 5 or 6 times we hung out, we drank Miller High Life together.
Yeah.
And then went on, a 6-year stretch of not touching it again. It's like we just got completely burnt out on it.
Yeah.
And I saw a 12-pack at the back of the fridge the other day at HEB, and I was like, I'm going to freak her out with this. And it's crazy, man. The first sip, I was back in her apartment 7 years ago. It's so bizarre.
That's a great feeling. Just being transported in that moment. It's kind of like a mildly euphoric, this is just... Nostalgia is a powerful drug. I'm just going to say that.
It really is. It really is. It is a drug that powers the masses.
You know what?
Informs so many of our decisions that it probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and... It's funny too, because when you started getting to Miller High Life, because I was there, we were just started living together at the time that you and Kaylee got together, I think. And
yeah, that's crazy, man.
And I was underage at the time, so I could only get booze from you. So whenever you would come home and you're like, I got Miller High Life, I was like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. This is such a great day. And then we drank 12 of them and then pass out, and it was great times. Love college.
Yeah, it's when you talk bang for your buck, man, you just can't beat it. $10 for a 12-pack. They're 4.6%. Mm-hmm. They taste good. The bottles look cool. You get to say you're drinking the champagne of beers. I mean, I don't know what else you'd want from a beer drinking experience.
I remember we'd had Corbin over for the weekend. He came to visit us, my cousin. And we had bought so much Miller High Life that we filled up our entire trash bag full of Miller High Life. And in a ill-advised moment, we had a trash chute on the top floor of our apartment complex, and it was filled to the brim with Miller High Life bottles.
I remember this.
And like assholes, we just threw it down there, and it exploded everywhere.
Corbin, I think Corbin still has a video of that, and if we
it's on my Instagram still, I think.
Are you serious? Because I want to download it. I could download the video from your Instagram. I want to put that sound effect in our podcast.
I think you even say afterwards, I feel so bad.
Dude, I remember it just being earth-shatteringly loud.
It was so loud. And it was heavy as fuck, too, so we were just like, we'll just throw it down the chute, I think.
I mean, we were on the 3rd floor, so that shit, God, we were assholes. That shit fell 3 stories.
Yeah, and we weren't even in, there were younger kids, but it wasn't so much of a party apartment, so, that was kind of a dick thing to do.
Yeah, look, if it makes you feel any better, my freshman year, and he'll kill me if he ever listens to this, but my freshman year, at UT. We lived, me and my roommate lived on a corner balcony. I think we were on like the 14th floor of this dorm, and off-campus dorm, and there was a sorority, like basically like on the corner of the street below us. Yeah. Have I told you this story?
Yeah, but I no.
This motherfucker. Yeah, so I came home from class, and Evan, my roommate, had bought, I shouldn't even have used his name, had bought all this fruit, like these like mini watermelons and bananas and apples and shit. Mm-hmm. And he was like, dude, he's like, I've got a plan for tonight. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This dude was going out on our balcony, and I'll never forget it. It was like watching a movie. Like, he threw like a relatively small watermelon when you consider how big watermelons usually are. Yeah. And it was the first piece of fruit that he threw off the balcony. And I mean, when I say that this sorority was like right next door to the apartment building, I mean, you could literally see the backyard of the sorority from our balcony. Yeah. And he threw this shit, and it hit a trampoline in their backyard. and I remember when I was seeing it when I was seeing it head toward the trampoline, my first thought was, oh, this is going to be so awesome. Like, it's going to hit the trampoline and it's going to bounce at some insane. No, dude, I'm an idiot. Like, I must have failed intro to physics, because like it doesn't matter what surface it's hitting from that far away. Mm-hmm. That shit exploded. I just can't even describe what it looked like. Mm-hmm. And there were people out there that had no idea what the fuck happened. Like, I remember seeing a huge chunk of it fly and hit like the screen glass door that they had. And like all these people came outside and were looking around like, what the fuck? Because from their angle, I remember them looking around like there's no way they could have guessed that it came from our balcony.
Yeah, there were too many points.
Because if you were down there, there were too many possible points of entrance. Like, I remember like a day later walking on the street down there and imagining that happening to me and looking around. I was like, I would never imagine that it came from our balcony.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, so it was a great story. And it took like years later before I realized, holy shit, man, like he could have fucking killed somebody so easily.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, we're talking 14 floors, like bad news, man.
Yeah.
Bad news.
Did I ever tell you the time I almost died at University Towers?
No, but I'm sure there were more than one near-death experience.
There were a couple of moments, but I had I lived at this notorious party apartment complex in my first year of college, and people threw shit off of the balcony all the time. Just for fun, and like every day you would come out of the elevators, people had ripped off the cover of those fluorescent lights and punched the fluorescent lights, and glass just shattered everywhere. Like, people were monsters.
Just why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it was insane. Like, people were literally insane. They blew it up now, so it doesn't exist anymore, thankfully. But it's.
Oh yeah, I forgot I got demoed.
Yeah, but I was outside and my mom was with me, and I was packing up my car to go home for like the summer maybe. And some dude from I don't know how far up threw a printer down, and it landed maybe 5 feet away from me. And it scared the fuck out of me.
God.
It was so loud. And I was like, I looked at it for a second. I was like, almost fucking died. Like, it was.
Dude, it's like at that point, I mean, you could fucking. Like, you could sue, you know?
Yeah.
That's like borderline assault.
Yeah, and I think in that moment, I was so used to it, I was just like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
like, I just
take
didn't
the money
care.
and run.
But I mean, like, that was the thing that happened all the time. Like, people just throw shit out of their balcony. Like, some girl threw all her boyfriend's, like, clothes out one day because, you know, cheated or I don't know, did something bad.
Yeah. I mean, dude, and Towers, like you said, I remember Towers being notorious for people throwing shit. Like, I remember my drummer at the time, I guess this was a year or two before you got there, mm-hmm. Like, he was living at Towers, and I was in his apartment with him when his roommates, it was during Rush, and there were, like, you know, all the sororities are right around there, it's West Campus,
yeah.
And there was this massive group of, like, it had to be 100 girls walking down the sidewalk, all wearing white dresses, heading to Rush. And this fucker had clearly planned this out. He had a fucking bucket of burnt orange paint, and he fucking just dumped. I mean, I think they were maybe on the 6th or 7th floor.
Yeah. Oh, that would hurt like hell.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it hit these girls, and like it probably covered 20 or so of them.
Damn.
Just completely covered them head to toe in paint.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously they're freaking out. Like, all the guys that are walking down the street are cracking up. Like, the girls in the back that didn't get hit are just, like, mouths agape. But it's like, my first thought was like, holy shit, dude. Like, that would be really painful.
Yeah.
That's a long way for that paint to fall.
And it smells bad, and you just ruin their night for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, just fucking ruining. And dude, I mean, these girls that are rushing, like, that's their entire life.
They're going through hell
like,
already. Just rushing in general.
They're already going through hell, and you're fucking making it worse. Yeah, good riddance to University Towers.
Yeah,
that place needed to be torn down.
It was every cliche thing you can think about college was encapsulated in that place. It was like,
yeah, man. I'm bummed that there's no like Netflix documentary about it, because
yeah, I would have totally made one.
Missed opportunity there.
God, yeah, there was some crazy shit. Like, there was one day somebody lit their room on fire, and the and the sprinklers. The place was like 50 years old, so the sprinklers went and they wouldn't stop. So they had to evacuate everybody out, and it flooded like the 7th floor all the way down to the 1st floor. Like, everybody's rooms were flooded.
Jesus Christ.
And I lived on the 9th. I lived on the top floor, so I got lucky. Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to talk about old college stories.
Riddance. Anyway, yeah. Let's go watch this fucking movie. What was it called again? I already forgot.
Miller's Crossing. So I'll give you a little bits of trivia, and then we'll go.
Okay.
So this is the first collaboration between the Coen brothers and Steve Buscemi, which ended up being a big thing.
Oh, nice.
And they hired him for the role of this guy Mink, who you'll learn about in a minute. He was they only hired him because he could speak the lines faster than anybody else could.
Is he going full Nucky Thompson in this?
Yeah, it's definitely that. It's interesting you say that, because yeah, it's definitely like a prelude to what Boardwalk Empire would be, or just the fact that he was in a Prohibition movie beforehand.
Nice.
And then our good friend Sam Raimi has a cameo in it for a minute.
Very cool.
Right off of the heels of Evil Dead 2, which is interesting because I think Joel Coen and Sam Raimi lived together with Holly Hunter around that time, which is like a crazy.
Oh, that's pretty nutty.
Yeah. And then, it takes place in 1929. And then the Coen brothers turned down a chance to direct Batman to make this movie, and it ended up going to Tim Burton instead.
Whoa.
Yeah, but they were like, hey, Coen brothers, you want to direct a Batman movie?
They should have done it, man. Missed opportunity.
Yeah, that would have been so weird, though. It's just like, they didn't know how weird the Coen brothers were going to get either, so they were just like, oh, it seems like it makes sense. Raising Arizona seems like a fun movie.
But isn't the Tim Burton Batman like universally hated?
No, I think his version is pretty well loved. It's the Joel Schumacher, George Clooney one that's hated.
Yeah. Okay,
which is,
got it.
For good reason, it's fucking terrible, but equipped with bat nipples.
Yeah, see, I'm not the guy who's oh god, I'm not the guy who's seen it, so there's no way I would know.
We should just watch that one as a goof because it's hilariously bad.
Nice. Yeah. Well, look, I'm beyond stoked to watch The Return of Nucky Thompson prior to Nucky Thompson.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite movies, so I'm really excited to do this one.
Fuck yeah. Well, sorry, more trivia. Was there something else you wanted to throw
that's it. Yeah, that's all.
Throw at the bank?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Hell yeah. Well, you have made the horrible mistake of listening to One Guy Seen It. When you hear that trumpet sound, #respect the trumpet. We're coming back with spoilers. We're coming back with rigmarole and hoopla and ballyhoo. We'll be back. All right. We're back. We're back. All right, so let me see if I've got the rumpus straight. Yeah. All right, so Bernie's boning Casper. Casper's boning Leo, but Leo's trying to bone Casper. Now, Casper wants to bone Tom for trying to bone him, while Verna's boning everybody just to keep Bernie from getting boned. but Tom's boning Verna, and by doing so also secretly boning Leo, while the cops and city officials are also secretly trying to bone Leo. But Tom's boning Eddie Dane and Mink by proxy. But then Bernie tries to bone Tom by making him bone Casper. And then Eddie Dane tries to bone Tom by taking him to Miller's Crossing. Turns out Tom's convinced Casper to bone the Dane, and together they're gonna bone Mink. But Mink's already been boned. So Tom tries to bone Bernie for trying to bone him, but Bernie ends up boning Casper, which frees up Tom to bone Bernie, which in turn bones Verna, in turn boning himself. So in the end, it's just one big bonerama.
Thank you. Good night. That's everything you need to know.
Do I got the rumpus right?
You got the rumpus. Yeah. First go around, you got it all down.
I had so much fun writing that. I'm sorry.
That was amazing. Did you write that out word for word?
Thank you. Absolutely, I wrote that out word for word. And I had to keep tight tabs on it too, because there was lots of boning going on.
Yeah, there's lots of double crossing and hi-hatting throughout the movie.
Double crossing and hi-hatting. So I know it's a thing, right, that with like Coen Brothers movies, isn't one of their things that like every word of the script is written before they start shooting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they rarely deviate from what they've written.
And that's really cool, and I think that shines through. It's like sometimes I don't know if that can make a movie better or worse. I think in this situation, I liked the repeated lines of dialogue that probably made it all the way through this. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, it's I think if it depends on how talented of a writer you are, but if you're like the Coen Brothers, it always works. I feel like they rarely miss.
Yeah, man, I fucking loved it. As far as like, I mean, there's so many like mobster noir movies, right? There's just like there's so many of them, and I feel like it's hard. I know it was 1990, and it's just like it's hard to do one right, and I feel like they did it right.
Yeah.
It was everything you want from a mobster noir movie.
Yeah, and it's really in that old classic style, like old Hollywood, but modernized a bit. But it's one of the most fast-talking, high-trousers movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as fast-talking, high trousers as it gets. I mean, it to the point where it was comical with Mink's first real scene. And it sucks because, like, I really wanted more Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
I was really struggling for a while trying to figure out who the body was.
Oh yeah.
And
when they go back to Miller's Crossing.
That might be the one part of the movie that I'm still a little confused about. Is like who killed Mink? Well, did Tom kill Mink?
Oh, Bernie.
Bernie killed Mink.
Yeah, because
okay.
He calls Tom later on and he's like, "Hey, we went out to Miller's Crossing." And it turns out you're actually dead. And he's like, "Well, I thought you could use a little insurance since I'm walking around here."
Yeah, okay. I must have like looked down at my phone or something during that one part of that conversation because I was like, "Man, I feel like I missed something there." But yeah, that's kind of what I was assuming, and that it just hadn't been talked about. But now I know it's been talked about.
Yeah, that's the thing about this movie is that there's so much information thrown at you. Like if you go away for if you go to the bathroom for a minute, you're gonna miss so much information.
Yeah, but I love that about it. Like and shout out to Mayor's Secretary Frances McDormand making an appearance.
Oh yeah, she's married to Joel Cohen.
Oh really?
Yeah, they've been married since like the mid '80s, I think.
Well, that would explain that. I had no idea. Dude, oh my God, I'm sorry. I walked over to Lila to take her collar off because she, for whatever reason, it's just like Babs, like your cat. Like whenever I start talking, she just starts freaking out, running around and playing with toys and like scratching herself. And I don't know what it is. I think it's just our voices maybe or something that like rile our pets up. But she started, so I went over to take her collar off and I don't know what happened. I took it off, but it didn't come off all the way. So I kept hearing the jingle, and I was looking down at it just now, and it was still on her somehow. Like, it was unlatched, but it was still hanging on to the top of her. Anyway, moving on. I did not know they were married. That's awesome. It was so crazy to see her so young.
Yeah, she's really good. Yeah, just like a little cameo at the end is the mayor's secretary.
Were they married already at that point?
Yeah, she was in their first movie called Blood Simple, and she's been in almost every one of them, I feel like, except for Barton, like a couple here and there. But she was in Raising Arizona and Miller's Crossing, and yeah, she's been in a ton of Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah, pretty freaking cool. Lila, get down. Sorry, she's just going bananas right now, dude. No, it's okay. I loved everything about it. I loved the constant whimsical police raids, with Tom and the chief of police just having the same conversation. just the passe, like, blasé nature of so many of the raids that were going on. I mean, I know it, but I imagine a lot of them were a lot like that, during that time.
Yeah, it's just like random political leaning. Then they're like, oh, I guess we got to go take this down, but nobody really wants to. So they're just like, I guess we'll do it now.
Yeah, dude. Oh, and but going back to fucking Mink, to Steve Buscemi's character. Man, his first little monologue, like, you told me the whole thing about they gave him the part because he could talk so fast, and like, it I don't know how to explain it. Like, it actually kind of bugged me. First of all, it bugged me that I didn't have more scenes with him, but it almost felt like it was too fast, Yeah. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like, I appreciated Steve Buscemi's ability as an actor, but I also felt like it was just a little too much. I don't know. I'm nitpicking here because it was awesome. But I was just like, okay. Like, it was enough to just kind of bring me out of it. It was fast enough.
I think it's just to drive home the fact that he's just a really nervous guy. So it's like you get that as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And I know it was absolutely 100% intentional. I don't know why. I don't know why that, because I'm sure it's a lot of people's, like, favorite scene from the movie because it's really impressive. But
he's
anyway, I digress. So how do you feel? I mean, I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. Watching it now, because I've seen it a bunch of times, but this is the first time I watched it where I was very clear on absolutely everything that was going on. I guess because I've had some time to, like, realize who all the characters are and all the little intricacies of what's going on. So I was able to appreciate the writing of it a lot more watching it this time.
Nice.
And it holds up really well. And it's interesting too, because this is the same year that Goodfellas came out, which, kind of revolutionized the gangster genre. But there's always this little dark horse outlier, Miller's Crossing, that nobody really talks about anymore.
Yeah, bummer. Was that? What an unfortunate year to put this movie out.
Yeah. But it's it's really an in-depth, like, and I wrote this down too at the end. I had this, like, epiphany about, like, how most gangster movies, like for most gangster movies, the mob war would be, like, the focus point of the movie. But in this movie, it's kind of just the backdrop. It's just kind of going on in the background of the movie. And it's really a movie about mob politics for about 2 hours.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I love about it, is how whimsical all the gang violence is. Like, it's not too into itself,
Yeah, it's just telling a really funny, weird, like, prohibition story.
Yeah, and, like, even all the henchmen deaths, like, every time somebody gets killed by a Tommy gun, just the over the top body jittering and, like, the shaking. Like, I know they're making fun. They're almost like it's almost tongue-in-cheek. They're almost poking fun at every other noir movie. But
because it's so over the top and so violent.
Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, the scene where, but all of the super violent scenes were really entertaining. Like, the one where you're blown away by Leo's athleticism when he hops out of his his mansion upstairs and jumps down with the Tommy gun and shoots the guy through the upstairs window. And then like walks out into the street just somehow with an endless 100-round magazine.
Yeah. I think the next scene, the guy is like, the old man's still an artist with a Thompson.
Still an artist with a Tommy gun. Yeah, that was a great line.
Yeah, and that might be my favorite scene in the movie. It's so well done, and like with the record, he's singing Danny Boy, and he's just smoking a cigar, reading a newspaper in bed, and then the reveal of the guys coming in. I love where they'd already killed the guy, and one of the henchmen just laying on the ground with his cigarette in hand, and it lights up the newspaper he's reading. It's so beautifully done. The editing and the cinematography is so good.
Yeah, and there's something to be said too about like the fact that you said that the sort of the gang violence, the mob violence is sort of this backdrop, this almost borderline comical backdrop to everything going on. Like you really felt that. There was one scene where the Dane is questioning what's her name? Vera? I just forgot her name. Verna.
Verna.
Yeah, he's like interrogating Verna, and two of Leo's guys come in to try to stop him, and he spins her around, and he takes them both out, and just sort of like the guy that survives the first shot, who he steps on his hand, and he's looking at. It's like you've seen so many scenes like that in a lot of these mobster movies, but just the sort of fact that like it's just business as usual, even for the hitmen guys. Like they accept going in that this is an absolute possibility, and the guy on the floor, like he's not begging for his life, like nobody's begging for their lives. It's just like it's just this is just the business. I'm about to fucking die, and he's like, God damn it, you almost had me. Just that kind of shit. Like it's just so cool. It's just the absolute like almost apathy toward life and death that I think's why mob movies are so interesting to people.
Yeah, and I think you're right too. That there's a certain like sarcastic humor about it's taking all those elements and just being like making all these mob guys really ethical and principled. It's like, well, this is what we chose in life, and they're not like, they're very like, well, this is it, as opposed to something like The Sopranos or Goodfellas where everybody's like trying to get out on top as much as. I don't know. Yeah, it's a really weird juxtaposition with those. They're like weirdly, I don't know, loyal to the life. It's hard to explain.
Yeah. It's just business as usual. Yeah, like and really well acted and really well written, obviously. But like the guy that played Casper, I forget the actor's name.
Joe Polito, I think.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, he makes the movie for me.
He's really,
so funny.
Really good.
And I like Eddie. Yeah, it's all about ethics. It's a serious moral question.
Yeah. There were so many quotes I just quit writing. I quit writing them down. I even told myself, I was like, I'm not going to spend the back half of this episode just reciting quotes, because every quote in the movie is great. It's just like, I feel like it's like any Coen Brothers movie. There's no reason to sit. We could just turn this into an hour-long quote-a-thon, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, there's my stomach's been seizing up on me.
Seizing up on me ever since we've been jawing, or since we jawed last time. I'm gonna start calling conversations jawed since we jawed last. Damn it, we're doing it, Sumner. We're turning it into a quote-a-thon. We can't do it.
It might turn. It's one of those things too. It's like I didn't even feel the need to write some of those quotes down. They're just burned in my brain at this point.
Yeah. But also, I'm going to start saying, when I want to leave somewhere, I'm going to start saying, I got to dangle.
You got to take your flunky and dangle.
Take your flunky and dangle.
It's so great. Yeah, so
there were the scene where the cops, as soon as the city officials and the cops all decide to side with Casper, and they're shooting up one of Leo's bars that they think he might be in, and they like throw some TNT in there, and then they have the massive shootout. Like it was so funny, because something I noticed is, especially when there was a lot of firepower going on at once, like there were a lot of guns firing. Like there was and I couldn't tell if this was on purpose or if it was just incidental, but there was like a lack of damage occurring to the building that should be occurring to the building. Like you got the whole Like, you've got the whole line of cops, all with the Tommy guns and pistols. I mean, they're firing like thousands of rounds every couple of seconds into this building, and like barely anything's happening to the building. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. They're like throwing grenades, and then like they take off the tarp on one of the trucks, and there's just a giant machine gun, and they're just plowing.
Yeah, they had this fucking like Browning 30. Yeah, it was so perfectly over the top, poking fun and also being like believable enough that it still left me in the world, you know?
That's the scene too with the Sam Raimi cameo. He's the guy that the one guy exits the bar and then he just shoots him point blank.
Yeah, that's Sam Raimi doing the shooting, right?
Yeah, and then he gets shot a million times by the machine gun.
Yeah,
and does this really over the top like seizing and then falls to the. It's amazing. Because like if you think about it in terms of the movie, that scene holds no purpose whatsoever. Because we already know that they're like it's just a scene for like action's sake. But I love that they threw it in there. It's so awesome.
Yeah, and you get to hear the shootout continuing in the background, adding to the kind of just like blasé nature of the gang violence in the background when Tom's in there talking to Casper. It's almost like that whole scene is just setting it up so that it can be in the background during their conversation, which is great.
Yeah, and I love that he's in the mayor's office, like he's like running things. It ain't easy.
It ain't easy running things. I think that's the point of this whole movie. Well, and so I want to jump toward the end for a second. I want to talk about sort of how things wrap up for Tom, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my question for you, and maybe that's sort of the point, is that we don't know, but you question throughout the movie kind of what his end goal is. Like, I feel like there are moments where he genuinely wants to escape with Verna and thinks there's a way out, but the way he spins it in the end is that it was all, it's just him being smart. Speaking of which, smart, the guy that played the Dane was great. He was fucking perfect.
I love him.
Perfect he's bad guy.
Yeah, one of the best characters in the movie, and he's so over the top in a way that's just purely enjoyable. Like it's over the top when you're watching it, but it fits perfectly with his character. He's just like evil henchman bad guy, but he's really not when you think about it. He's just protecting Casper the whole time.
Yeah, he's just loyal to Casper.
And he realizes Tom is like, he's gonna con us the whole time. He like reads him correctly from the beginning.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, everybody's so goddamn smart.
Everybody's so goddamn smart. That whole scene in the car was so good. Yeah.
Then I realized these two geniuses never even saw the... you're right. It is turning into a quote.
I knew it would be so easy for it to happen. I was like,
it's just,
we gotta be careful.
Everything everybody says is so fucking hilarious. I don't know why.
That's Coen Brothers, man. Like, just the few movies that I've seen. Like, I know there are a few I still need to see, but every one, the characters and the writing is just awesome.
Yeah, and the humor is just it's so subtle, but it's so, like, out front at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense, but, like, just the littlest things that people do make me, like, howl with laughter.
Yeah, man. And you know what's funny? You're talking about your favorite scene being Leo's shootout, like, at his mansion or whatever. My favorite scene in the whole fucking movie was very close to the beginning when the dude Rugg is dead, and I'm assuming they called him Rugg because of his hairpiece. It's just a guess, but
Rugg Daniel.
But they find the little boy finds that scene with the boy and the dog and the hairpiece was just an incredible like minute long of filmmaking. Just these simple shots, like no dialogue, just all like atmosphere and angle, and it's like it just in that minute just proves how much the Coen brothers are sort of masters of their craft. Like that you can you just don't, it's so good. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it just fits perfectly. And I do love that we know what happens in that moment because everybody else is talking about why would they take his hair? That's weird. Why would they do that? And it's just
give the audience a leg up. That's a smart move.
Yeah, and then you just realize that like the little kid or the dog took the hair, and it just. But everybody's like contemplating it. It's like, what does that mean? What message are they trying to send?
Right, and there's that duality too, right? The other. So there's like two things, right? There's that, and then there's also the fact that at the end you find out that the whole reason Rugg is like, because every little part of all the double crossing and all the backstabbing, it's also complicated and clearly well thought out, and everything about it's really, really intentional. But then there's the little elements of chaos that you can't control, and two being both of them involving Rugg, right? One being that, you know, the hairpiece was just a little boy who found him, but then also the fact that it was just Mink killing Rugg because he was paranoid, and it's like just that little bit of chaos to all of the structure of the plot makes it just humanizes it more. It's not this, you know, super into itself plot. I mean, it is to a certain extent, but like that's almost adding a human element to it that's necessary to make it believable.
Yeah, it's these two mob guys just having an excuse to fight each other, really. Like, just a V for power.
So I got sidetracked. Like, my question with the end of the movie is like, what do you think? Mm-hmm. I know that maybe it doesn't matter, and that's kind of the point. But do you think that Tom's motivations changed throughout the entire process, and he just kind of rolled with it until he knew a way out? Or do you think, or saw through the trees that he could shape it one way or the other? Or do you think this was always kind of his goal and it was just true loyalty to Leo?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunist side of him. I think beginning he's probably thinking about turning on Leo because he's upset with the situation, but I think pretty quickly he realizes that Casper really doesn't have the makings to run the town like he thinks he does. So... And even Verna has this one quote. He's like, "I thought you said Leo and you were through," and then he says something like, "I'm done with him. It's not the same thing." He's like, I think there's an element of him that was always like trying to win back favor with Leo, because I think he felt guilty about the whole Verna situation, like all the way through. Like he did it, but he was like he felt guilty and he wanted to do right by Leo in the end a little bit.
Got it.
So yeah, I think there's a bit of him that wanted to make amends in the only way that he could.
Yeah, it sucks. Like I really don't even know what else to say about it. Like I loved it. I loved all of it. Great movie.
Yeah, and I do love that. So you got like the two head guys, which are played by Albert Finney and Joe Polito. And they're just, you know, big ego dudes, just like swinging their big dicks around. But they're kind of portrayed as they're not that smart compared to the other guys in the movie. Like they talk a big game.
Are you talking about Casper's henchman?
No, Casper himself and Leo.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, they're kind of like they talk a big game and they like know what they want, but they also don't really. Like I think even Leo makes a comment like at the very beginning of the movie. He's like, "Well, I'm not that well read," and he's like, "Well, you better start," or something like that at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And but really, like the two masterminds are the Dane and Tom. Those are the ones that are really running the show, because they're the ones planning and coming up with like ways to outsmart each other, and you know, because they're so loyal to their dudes.
Yeah, they're loyal to their figureheads.
Yeah, there is an interesting theory, which I think I completely believe now. But I was reading something the other day talking about this movie, and it has to do with the Dane and Mink and Bernie, like that whole dynamic.
Okay. And
the theory is that the Dane and Mink are lovers and are, you know, like together, and then Bernie is a guy that Mink starts seeing and like, you know, having a relationship with. And that's why the Dane is so pissed at him the whole time.
Oh, I can totally see that. There was one scene or part of dialogue where I thought they might have been alluding to that, and then I quickly lost track of it.
Yeah, I think they allude to it a couple times, and there's even a quote where Tom is talking to Casper, and he's like, you know, the Dane is setting you up with Mink, and he's like, oh, he wouldn't do that. He's like, oh, everybody loves money. And then Tom is like, Well, there's that wild card when love is involved, and he's clearly talking about Mink and the Dane. And
yes, yeah, dude, that was okay. That's the line that jumped out at me. That's crazy because I thought about that for a second and they never touched on it again. I was like, okay, maybe I just was reading it wrong. But that's crazy. That doesn't even sound like a conspiracy. That sounds like it's legit what was being alluded to.
Yeah, just the literal text. And like, they're just like passing things when Tom was talking to Mink at the beginning, and he's like, sounds like you got yourself a new boy with Bernie Birnbaum. And then he gets all freaked out like he knows something's up.
Yeah, crazy, man. That's awesome.
Which is an interesting, and this is kind of a sad thing, but I just read, so the guy that plays the Dane, what's his name? J.E. Freeman was a gay man in real life, and he died of AIDS, I think 7 or 8 years ago.
That is a fucking bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer. And Joe Polito too, he's a gay man, which I didn't know until today.
Crazy.
Yeah, doesn't really add much, but I just thought it was
not crazy,
interesting.
but yeah, I mean that's hey, there you go, man. There's some subtext to the literal text.
Yeah, but I really love that theory, and it's backed up pretty heavily by certain lines of dialogue, and it definitely adds more like weight and depth to the story that's going on. It's like, oh, they don't come right out and tell you that, but it's an important piece of information if you're paying attention.
Yeah, man. Just adds to the masterpieceical nature of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too I love about this movie is like there are little moments I come back and be like, oh, I didn't even notice that, and it's like that's one of the things that's so cool about this movie.
Yeah, damn, dude. Thank you for sharing it with me. Like, it was awesome. Big fan.
Oh, I did want to talk about. Actually, I said the Leo scene was my favorite scene. Actually, I think my favorite scene is when what are their names? Tic Tac and Frankie take Tom up to Casper's club.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say it to beat him up.
Yeah, and he's like, I got you money for Lazar, and he's like, thanks, and he basically refuses his money, and then they get into and Frankie, the guy, comes up to like beat Tom, and Tom's like, hold on, so he takes his coat off and then slams him across the face with the chair, and he looks at him in disbelief for a moment. He's like, Jesus, Tom.
Come on, man.
And then he just shuffles out of the room like a toddler, and then goes get Tic Tac, the other guy.
Yes, it was so good, man. It felt like a scene from Family Guy or something.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a cool piece of trivia that I was saving until we did the last part. So Tom takes significant beatings throughout the movie. Like, he gets beaten up, I feel like almost every scene.
He gets his ass handed to him.
So somebody broke it down, the amount of times he gets punched in the movie.
No way.
So apparently he gets punched in the face 12 times, and then he gets punched in the kidneys and stomach 20 times.
Yeah,
and then he gets
man.
kicked in the face twice, thrown down a flight of stairs twice, beaten up with a purse, then tripped in a full sprint and nearly strangled to death. So he gets fucked up in this movie.
Just another day in the life, you know?
Yeah, it's what you accept.
That's fucking great. You know what? One little thing I noticed, not to interrupt you, the dude that was the giant henchman that he hits over the face with the chair, I recognized him from one other thing, and I'm sure he's been in other stuff, but I noticed the episode of The Office where, I don't know if you remember this one, where there's the insurance salesman.
That's one of my least favorite episodes too.
Dude, it's so bad, but that's the guy.
The mafia guy.
The guy that they think is a mafia guy, the insurance salesman or whatever. It was just such a funny connection to make.
And they're trying to order like the gabagool at the restaurant or something.
Sir, we don't carry gabagool.
I did want to. And there's a scene with Bernie where early on in the movie where he just shows up in Tom's apartment, and he says something to Tom. He's like he's talking about his sister in a really like fucked up way. He's like saying, oh, she's quite a twist. She gets her hooks in you yet? And he's like saying all this fucked up shit about his sister. And then he drops this really weird piece of information where he's like, she tried to teach me a thing or two back in the day. And then he says this line, he's like, she's had this crazy crackpot idea about trying to save me from my friends. which could be a reference to
Dude,
his.
no, that is
homosexual-
another fucking reference. Seriously, dude, that's not a conspiracy at this point. Like, that's absolutely this like subtext that was going on.
Yeah, that adds another layer to the movie, which is really cool.
And for the record, I haven't even said anything. John Turturro's fucking amazing. Like, he is in everything.
Yeah.
He's so great in this.
God,
Mr. Sneaky Sneaky.
We got to talk about Bernie for a second because he is such a fuckface the entire movie.
John Turturro is great at playing a fucking fuckface.
Yeah, he's just a whiny little bitch like the whole movie. He's always he'll show up and he'll talk shit about everybody, and then as soon as it's like turned back, he's the only guy that reacts realistically to about to being killed.
Yeah, right. And then he gets really butthurt about it and is like, he's talking to Tom. He's like, you're the only one that knows. What was the thing that he says? He's like, I'm trying to make you squirm and you're ruining it.
You're ruining. And when you smart me, it's ruins
when
it.
you smart me, it ruins it. It's like the subtle humanization of all of these like larger than life characters is what makes it so entertaining.
Yeah. And I think Tom like has his moment of weakness out in the woods with Bernie. He like, it's not so much that he's sparing Bernie. It's like he doesn't want to, do it to fuck up Verna in that moment.
Yeah, he loves Verna.
So he lets him go, but he knows it's the wrong move because he's gonna come back, and he's not surprised at all when he shows up in his apartment and tells him this whole speech about. It's like, if I stayed around, that might not be as bad for me as it is for you.
Yeah,
he's just just a dick.
He was perfect. It was so well acted, and it's funny. I hadn't seen the actor that played Leo. The last thing I remember seeing him in was that movie Big Fish with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah,
where he's the
dad.
the dad. Yeah, it was weird seeing him in this because it's the only movie I could remember him being in that I've seen at least.
Yeah, and Leo is such a sweetheart. Like throughout the whole movie, he's like trying to he's like in love with Verna, even though she's she basically is a con artist. Like everything that Tom says about her is pretty much true.
Yeah,
he makes her sound more conniving than she might actually be, but she is like working one over on him, and he's like actually in love with her. So
yeah, man.
It's like Tom almost kind of pities Leo because he's like seems like such a nice guy, even though he's like a, murdering gangster at the same time.
Yeah, dude, it was one big, epic, beautiful bonerama.
Yeah, one big bonerama.
I really just want to do my whole spiel again, but I know it'd be over the top.
Just do it one more time for me.
Okay, I'll do it one more time for you. And you need to fact check it, though, because I'm going to go fast. Fast talking high trousers.
Fast talking high trousers.
So you got to make sure.
Brain.
You put one right in his brain. But make sure that I'm on point here, okay? So Bernie's boning Casper. Casper's boning Leo. Leo's trying to bone Casper. But Casper wants to bone Tom for trying to bone him. Verna's boning everybody just to keep Bernie from getting boned. Tom's boning Verna. But by doing so, is also secretly boning Leo, while the cops and city officials are also secretly trying to bone Leo. But Tom's also boning Eddie Dane and Mink by proxy, and then Bernie tries to bone Tom by making him bone Casper. But then Eddie Dane tries to bone Tom by taking him to Miller's Crossing. Turns out, Tom's convinced Casper that he needs to bone the Dane, and together they're going to bone Mink. But Mink's already been boned, so Tom tries to bone Bernie for trying to bone him. But Bernie ends up boning Casper, which frees up Tom to bone Bernie, which bones Verna, in turn, boning himself.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the whole movie in a nutshell.
I'm telling you, man, I need to start a petition to get the IMDb plot synopsis replaced to that.
Yeah, and it's like, you got it all. And when you watch it, I think when you're really paying attention, it's really not that complicated. But I think the first two times I watched this, and I watched this when I was like in high school, I guess, but I remember just being like overwhelmed. I'm like, shit, I don't know who anybody is. I don't know anybody's names. Like I forgot who Mink was because he's only got one scene.
Yeah.
So you really have
Which
to
I'm still pissed about.
Yeah. Yeah, you really got to like pay attention a lot in this, but it's worth it if you're into it.
Yeah.
There are a couple more scenes I wanted to talk about because there's so many good ones. The whole thing with Drop Johnson, which it never really clicked in my head for a long time. I was like, what is he? He holds some weight to he's the boxer guy that they bring.
His screaming match was freaking me out.
Yeah, that's one of like the most surreal scenes in the movie. But and like it's painfully obvious now, like what was happening. But yeah, Bernie he's selling the information about the fixed fight to Drop Johnson, and he's the big dumb guy, so he drops $2,000 on it. So it's obvious he knows what's up. And so I was like, where are you getting that information from? And and then they pin it. But yeah, that scene where takes him back to Casper's place, and then the Dane is like trying to choke out Tom because he thinks he killed me. God, there's so much to keep track of in my head.
Yeah, it's a lot. It got a little clustered right there.
Yeah, but he's trying to choke out Tom because he thinks he killed Mink out at Miller's Crossing. But there's that shot with Casper sitting at in his chair by the fire with like the fire burning behind him, and him like clutching the little shovel
the fire
thing.
poker. Yeah,
which I thought was just like a great shot. Just his
it really was just showing
rage.
the madness of the scene. Yeah.
And I always feel bad for the Dane getting killed. He didn't deserve it.
Yeah, but at the same time, think about how many people he's fucking killed. Like, they all deserve it.
Yeah. I mean, they're all psychopaths. They're just crazy people.
Yeah.
But they've got ethics. It's a moral question.
They got ethics. Well, they do in Casper's camp.
They do, yeah. Yeah. And, what else did I want to talk about? The scene where they take him out to Miller's Crossing with the guys, and, the Dane beat the shit out of Frankie and Tic Tac, which I just love their names. I just like saying them.
Yeah, Frankie and Tic Tac.
But yeah, the scene where they're walking and like trying to find the body, which is already an insane thing. He's like setting him up for failure. It's like very easily could not find the body, even if he did kill him.
Yeah.
And but Frankie is just singing this beautiful opera ballad in the middle of the woods.
Was it Frankie singing? I was trying to figure out if it was the soundtrack or if it was somebody singing. I couldn't figure it out.
No, he's just singing. He's just got this wonderfully angelic voice. And he's just singing out in the woods. And I love the part where Dane is like, there's nothing out here, and then just throws him to the ground. And then he looks over and just sees Frankie skipping through the woods while he's singing, which I just think is a funny image. Yeah, and then they find the body, and then it's like, hey, I told you to shoot him in the head, not blow his stinking face off.
Yeah, not in the face. Yeah, that was a visceral scene, man. I thought he was done for.
Yeah, and it's a confusing moment too, because you're like, what the fuck? That's so you think it's like you're being fucked with for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was. Man, the ball's on Tom to tell Leo that he was boning Verna, and Leo knows how hard it must have been for him and respects him for it, but has to react primally. And I mean,
which is probably like the nicest.
Shit.
It's probably the nicest thing Tom does in the whole movie was be honest with him.
Yeah. And the whole time, really, I mean, I guess Leo's really the only person he's ever truly honest with. Yeah,
because even with Verna, he kind of he screws her over big time at the end, and doesn't really have that much loyalty to her. He doesn't really treat her with that much respect.
He did so much for her throughout the movie, and then at the end, basically, he's just like, "Fuck it, like I got to do what's best for me."
And I wonder too if it's just like he feels guilty that he loves her so much, even though that it was Leo's girl. So I don't know how much of that is just projection, how much he hates himself a little bit, but. I don't know. That could be reading into it too much.
Yeah.
But at the end, it's interesting that he ends up deciding to kill Bernie because he doesn't really need to at that point. Like, it doesn't benefit him in any way other than purely revenge. Like, he just hates Bernie.
Yeah. Yeah. It it's a little frustrating when you think about what he went through to keep him alive, but it's like he's just tired of fucking dealing with him.
Yeah, but everything could have worked out with him and Verna, and Leo probably would have accepted him back. The same, but even at the end, he's like, nope, we're done, goodbye. He just he can't even forgive himself a little bit, so he's just like,
it seems like that's what it is. Ties. Yeah, he's got to walk away because he can't even fucking forgive himself.
Yeah, beautiful movie. I love it.
Great movie film. What's your rating? What are you thinking on this one?
0. Come on, it's a fucking classic,
dude. And it sucks too because I know mobster noir. I mean, Coen Brothers movies should be for everybody, but I know the mobster noir genre isn't for everybody. I fucking love these movies, so I'm with you. I'm gonna give it 0 because there was nothing that I didn't like about it. And I don't. Is this isn't our first perfect score, is it?
I think Dog Day Afternoon got a perfect score from us.
Okay. All right. Well, this is up there. It deserves a perfect score.
It's almost like you can't really drink that much anyway. You kind of have to pay it.
Pay
a lot of
again,
attention.
Adding even another layer to our rating system. How much do you need to drink to actually be able to pay attention to the plot properly?
Yeah, but it's it's got all the crazy action stuff, which the sound design in this movie is so good. Like just even like the little details of like people like walking on the floor, like when Tom's barefoot and he's like running through the little downstairs area when he like jumps down, and like the gun slamming on the floor. Like the Coen Brothers, like the thing I always take away from their movies is the sound design is always perfect in every movie that they do.
Yeah, I've always been impressed by it.
And it just it sucks you in. And I will go out on a limb and say that its sound is more important to a movie than camera work. I will die on that
that's
hill.
That's a big hill to die on, my friend.
I'd like really layered, multi-dimensional sound is like I can get sucked into any movie that like has a lot going on there. And I mean, I think camera work always helps, and this movie has beautiful camera work. Like it's insane. But that's another element to it. Yeah,
I'll keep that in mind in the future and might put that hill to the test.
Yeah, when you really start paying attention to like the different layers of things they're putting in, because they have to do everything in post, so every little detail of sound that you hear was methodically thought out in a way. And when you pay attention to it, you will never enjoy a movie ever again.
Yeah, that's
be thinking about
crazy.
the sound.
I don't need any joy.
It'll make you hate Christopher Nolan movies way more than you already do.
God, yeah. Don't even get me started. Well, hey, if you guys have made it this far, thanks for listening to another episode of One Guy's Seen It. We actually, thanks to Sumster over here, now have a live Instagram at One Guy's Seen It. So get out there, people, and follow us on the gram. Some crazy content coming your way.
We got the YouTubes, we got the Facebook, Instagram. Probably do something at some point eventually.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed. I went through all this hubbub to try to figure out how to get this podcast on Google Podcasts. Turns out, Google Podcasts has been in the process of like no longer existing. It's being absorbed into YouTube. So, like I've been doing what YouTube recommended since we started this podcast, which is if you want your podcast distributed on YouTube, just to upload your own videos and put them in a playlist and label that playlist as a podcast, and then it'll aggregate properly to like YouTube Music and all that stuff. So that's what I've been doing. Well, since YouTube is now absorbing Google Podcasts, you can now connect your RSS feed directly to your YouTube channel as a playlist. So I basically don't have to do what I've been doing. But because I've already started doing it, like I can't not do it anymore. So it's just so dumb. Like if we'd started this podcast like 5 months later, it would just be one click and it would be everywhere. People would want to listen.
God damn it.
so is our plight.
So is our plight.
But all you listeners out there, make it worth it. Thanks for putting up with us. My name is Jeff.
My name is Sumner.
And remember,
every movie's better with at least one beer.
Every movie is better with at least one beer, except this one. You don't need a beer for this movie.
Except this one. Yeah. I think this is one of those movies I could see being like like the film version of like a really great novel. Like that's what I always get that vibe with this movie.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't even know if it would be better as a novel, but I think it could be just as good.
Yeah, but there's so many moments that like the guy screaming at the end. I was like, you can't write that into a book and have it feel the same as that.
Yeah, no. But anyway, that's it for us. We'll see you next week on One Guy's Seen It. Peace and love.
One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.